All right, GM, everybody, and welcome back to the Music NFT Radio podcast. Today we have a special episode. We're going to be on Audio Renaissance, which is an amazing show here on the Twitter Spaces with one of our esteemed VIP collectors in the community and an amazing musician himself. It's Kirk, the crypto therapist, and I'm super happy to be on this show. We're going to talk a little bit about my journey and music NFTs and introduce this amazing audio renaissance show, as well as Kirk, who's one of our great collectors in the community. So happy to be here, man. Why don't you go ahead and introduce the show for everybody who's listening on Music NFT Radio? And if you're listening in now on YouTube or podcast sites, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Music NFTs are taking over. Kirk, let's go back to you, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dill. And yeah, thanks for coming on the show today. For people who don't know, the show is called Audio Renaissance. This is actually episode 4. And we're basically just interviewing a lot of music NFT artists primarily, but also people who are involved in Web3 tech and are really building in this space. So, kind of the way I've been doing it so far is interviewing people of which I've collected their music NFTs in the order in which I've collected it. So, yeah, you're number 4 in that list still. So, it's definitely good that you can be here with us today. And, really want to delve into your story and kind of like how you got started and all that. And so, yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Appreciate you
Well,
coming on.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, you picked up one of our VIPs, so it means a lot to have you as a VIP collector and a long term partner in what we're building. So I really do appreciate that, man. And I also think it's great that you're having a show that really lets artists tell their story and share a little bit of their journey because it's so important. And sometimes I don't get a chance to really lay it all out. I did actually with Taylor on his podcast. I've done it a few other times, but now I'm just putting out so much content that it's great to have an opportunity to really just lay out my story a little bit. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, because sometimes we get sort of caught up in the what we're doing, what we're building, and we sometimes kind of skip over ourselves, right? Like, and people I think really want to know more about the artists and kind of get to know them on a more personal level. So, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here. But yeah, shout out to everybody in the room. Definitely like, retweet. Um, And put something in the comments that you like about Dill. What's your favorite thing about Dill? Or when did you first hear about Dill? When did you first buy one of his NFTs? Throw that down in the comments so we can get some interactions going. But yeah, we can just get started now. So, just out of curiosity, for people who don't know, where in the world did you grow up? Like, what was your kind of upbringing like?
I grew up outside of Philly and I still live in Philly now. And, I had a nice life growing up, a great family life. I have two brothers, a sister, and it was a good time. I had a solid group of friends. I was always pretty interested in music and singing and performance and stuff like that. But I had a good balance. I was into like sports and other stuff like that. I wasn't a huge athlete, but I always enjoyed music. I always enjoyed singing. I enjoyed gaming and other stuff like that, content creation. I used to make gaming videos before I ever did music. So I was always into creative and entrepreneurial type stuff as well.
Awesome, nice, yeah. And how old were you when you kind of first became super interested in music to a point where you started, trying to be creative with it?
Well, when I was a kid, I was definitely interested in like punk rock, like Green Day and like Simple Plan, like alternative rock type of stuff. I was really into that as a kid. And I also did like when I was young, I did like some like theater shows and like chorus, like singing and stuff like that. So I've always been kind of interested in music in a sense. But I really connected with music when I started listening to hip hop and rap when like Rick Ross was coming up and Dream Chasers in Philly with Meek Mill blowing up, which is like when I was just getting into high school. So I was pretty young, but I really started to like hip hop and really started to like music and really connect with music on a daily basis. And, that's ultimately where I started listening to music a lot more. And, of course, now I'm rapping, I'm singing, I'm doing that. But hip hop has really been where I've found the most passion and been the biggest music fan as well.
Wow, that's awesome. And I never would have guessed that you were into, punk rock and alternative back early on. That's super interesting. And then to kind of make that shift into, hip hop is definitely interesting. Um, so now I remember, and I watched obviously the video, but um, you'd put out a song called Jordan Belfort, which got a lot of traction. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I released Jordan Belfort pretty much right after the movie came out. I had seen Wolf of Wall Street right when it came out. I think this was 2013, 2014 is right when it came out. And I just seen it. And I went to my friend Wes's house, Wes Walker, who I made the song with. He's one of my best friends. We're 50-50 collaborators on the song. And I went to his house one day and he showed me this beat that ultimately ended up becoming the Jordan Belfort beat. And I was like, yo, this is hot, man. And so I just started rapping on it, thinking of ideas. And I was honestly thinking of like Rick Ross shouting out, like, think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover. Like Rick Ross is shouting out that new boss. And I was kind of thinking of that, like, all right, we're going to shout out, Jordan Belfort. He's the new, Wolf of Wall Street. So I just really thought the movie was something special. I mean, I knew it was something special. It was just a dope movie that I really enjoyed. So that's where the song came from, and we really put it together in like a couple days and put it on the SoundCloud, and then it sat on SoundCloud for probably a year or two before it really started gaining any plays or anything major started happening with it. So it was really just life as normal, going back to school. I was in college at the time at Tulane University, so I recorded the song my freshman year during like my first break. So it was like the first time being back home, being with some friends, and I never really seriously released music at that point. We just kind of messed around. We would like to freestyle and stuff. And around when I recorded Jordan Belfort was some of the first time I was even starting or thinking about recording music. But I always put stuff out on SoundCloud. I mean, like when I would make stuff and then I'd put it on SoundCloud, and I didn't have too many songs when we put out Jordan Belfort, but then after Jordan Belfort started getting some traction, I made a lot more music and put out a lot more stuff. So yeah, we ended up taking a deal with a major label, going on a big tour, doing over 100 shows, performing in front of crowds as big as 15,000. I've been to a lot of different colleges, universities. It was one of the biggest college songs of the last decade or so. So it continues to be one of the biggest college party songs in general. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely, the Jordan Belfort song has defined my career, and it really gave me the motivation to pursue being a music artist and be where I am today. So if that song didn't happen, I would probably just be working in startups or tech or whatever. But ultimately, the paths all led to the same thing, which is here I am doing tech and startups and the same kind of things that make sense with my background and my finance knowledge and stuff like that, all coming together with NFTs and Web3. So I think it's really interesting how it all played out. But yeah, I mean, the Jordan Belfort song was really the piece of music that gave me the motivation to really pursue a music career and really say, okay, this could be something more than just me messing around and putting out music on the internet. Like, there's actual possibility to create something massive just from what you can do as a creator. yourself with the internet and with the tools that are in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember watching the video too, and it was definitely a wild video. What was the shooting process like for that video?
So we actually made that before we were signed, before we had any funding or anything. And that's a big part of what landed us some of the bigger deals and some of the bigger, shows and tours that we did was having that video. And we actually made it by going down to Miami with somewhat of a plan, but honestly not too much of a plan. We had a few people that we knew that had like somewhere where we threw the big party, and a few people that came in along the way. So we really used at the time, it was Facebook more than anything. We used Facebook to reach out to people, and a lot of people already knew the song. Like the song was blowing up before we had the video. So a lot of people knew the song or knew what it was about. And when they heard it, they liked it and they wanted to help make the video. So I mean, we didn't record some of the parts where it was all happening, but it's really interesting. We kind of made the video with no budget, just by the support of all the people around us. So it would have been a cool storytelling moment if we would have captured all of that, kind of like Lil Dicky did in his "Save That Money" video. But it was really made in a similar way to that video, if anyone's seen it, where, in that video, they're just going around asking people to use their shit to shoot a dope music video in like rich neighborhoods. So it wasn't quite like that. We were more trying to use our connections to get to people, but we ultimately got to someone who had a massive yacht that let us come film on the yacht. And, we got to people who let us use a Lambo and an office space and everything you see there, the mansion party. So it was a lot of fun. And of course, the video came out amazing and made a huge impact on our careers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of times, I mean, we hear the music and all that, but there's just something unique about, capturing kind of a video representation of that, right? Because it also kind of gives you like a perceived clout, right? Like, wow, you're on this yacht, you got this Lambo, you got girls, all this stuff. It's like there's kind of this perception of like, already success, which obviously goes right along with, Jordan Belfort's life, right? So it definitely fits in that way. But it's just really cool that you were able to do that effectively through crowdsourcing. And then you actually ended up having an interview with Jordan Belfort. That I'm assuming that was after the video, after it blew up. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically when the video started blowing up and everything, we got a lot of contact from record labels, and they basically would sell us the story of like, oh well, it's just an internet song for now, and who knows if it's gonna keep going, or you need a label to take it to that next level. And while there may have been some truth to that, I think that at the same time, it wasn't totally true. And you got to realize that at this time, SoundCloud was new. Like songs blowing up on the internet was relatively new. There were a few artists that have maybe blew up on YouTube, and there were a few artists that were starting to get big from the internet in different ways. But right now, everyone knows you can actually have a career from SoundCloud, or you can blow up on TikTok, or, blow up on the internet and actually have a real music career. But back then, it was a little bit less, a little bit less clear or a little bit less obvious than it is now. So, anyway, long story short is we took the record deal and decided to work with the major label who maybe they did some things to help us, but ultimately I don't feel like they invested heavily into our futures, and they certainly didn't reinvest into us heavily, even after having a massive hit for them that was massively profitable for them. So they really didn't take any time to reinvest in us, and that's such a shame, right? Because we had a massive hit song that worked really well for them, and you would think there would be more of an attempt to recapture and have another big opportunity like that. But I just felt that the follow up work that came with the label just didn't exactly move well, and the result was just lackluster. So for that reason, there's a song that we did with the label that released at a similar time to one of my independent singles, and supposedly there was a massive budget behind this song, to the tune of five, almost six figures. And that song, with this massive supposed budget behind it, still has less streams and less traction than my independent single that I put out at the time. And, I maybe invested a little bit into the music video, but nowhere near what they supposedly invested in digital marketing for this song. So, anyway, what it's taught me is that working with record labels, you have to be careful because they're not always super honest. And as an inexperienced artist, you can often, get the short end of the deal. And especially when you don't know better than to like really double check things and, really take control of the situation. Because as a young artist, I probably didn't know how to do that as well as I would now, where, I'd just be taking control of the situation a little more and realize that, you know, giving the label a hard time about things being done right is my job as the artist a little bit. So, it's just for me, that was a learning experience, and it's allowed me to be successful as an independent artist, though, because I have a high level of grind, and now I know a lot more, and I have a lot more leverage, not only from my knowledge, but from my independent success. So, at the end of the day, I really believe that it was all learning experience, and it gave me some great opportunities, and now I have another chance to do something amazing here in Web3. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I hear this story so many times, and I've had my brushes with the music industry too, and it's obviously a lot of the people in this space, the musicians in this space, like Violetta, Sammy, like they've all had these record deals, and I think a lot of times they'll target people who are maybe younger. They don't have necessarily the experience with the business side of things, and it's a lot more easily to exploit, right? Um, and like you said, you kind of learn lessons the hard way, unfortunately, but at least you learned, right? And you moved on, and you're like, okay, I know what I'm not going to do now, and how I'm going to approach this in the future. So that's just amazing, and obviously you're one of the hardest working people in the space too. So I mean, if anybody's going to succeed in this new Web3 model, like it's definitely going to be you. um, so just kind of transitioning a little bit, when did you first learn about crypto, and like when did you first buy crypto?
Yeah, I got into crypto in 2016 because one of my best friends, Mark, also known as Cuss Pack, he's on the Crypto Rich album and some of my other stuff. He's one of my business partners now as well. He called me up and he said that he was Googling the internet for how to get rich, and he found Ethereum. And so at that time, we got into Ethereum at $7, me and one of my best friends. And at that time, it was just this crazy idea. We were just trying to understand what a smart contract even was. And, we weren't putting in some crazy amount of money. We were just putting in what little amount of money we could get together to buy into this crazy idea that was Ethereum. At that time, there wasn't even an exchange to buy a coin or a token. You had to go on these crazy sites that let you interact directly with smart contracts. It was really crazy and hard to use. You think crypto is hard to use now? Back then, it was impossible. And yeah, we just started getting into the space and learning as much as possible. And that's actually a great story, is just to talk to Mark and hear about getting into Ethereum at $7. It's something we're going to do in another podcast here on Music NFT Radio. So that's going to be a really cool story to tell. But yeah, I mean, we got into the crypto space, and at that time, I had no idea that this was going to connect to music. I mean, we started to understand the blockchain, and And when you first realize that, you know there's ways it's going to affect different industries. But I didn't see it playing out at all, what we have here with music NFTs. And at this time, I was really looking for my next move and what I was going to do, because I was a little bit fed up with the situation in the music industry. I had this big hit. I had toured. I had had some success. Things were cooling off. I had released music independently. I wasn't getting support from the label. I wasn't getting a lot of independent success, at least not financially in a way that seemed sustainable. So at the time, I went back to school, and I was actually back in school. So I was finishing up my degree, because I was halfway through my degree when the song really started blowing up. So I took a year off to tour, went back to finish, and you got to understand, getting into crypto for me was really like my next kind of move. Not that I mean, I was a little fed up with the music industry, so I wasn't really planning to make music. And at some point, I really didn't think I was going to be making too much music. This was when I was getting into crypto. 2016, I founded my company, Advantage Blockchain, and we were working on consulting with and investing and helping people with crypto investments and stuff. And that was great. But at the time, I was just feeling like maybe there was no opportunity for me in music anymore. So that's what really led me to crypto, is looking for that next move. And it was after a few years working in the crypto industries and working as a consultant and working with blockchain and investing into crypto and trading, that I started to realize, like, okay, this is cool. I could be successful with crypto, but I have this amazing platform for music, and if I don't do something with it, it's such a wasted opportunity. So after a couple years working in crypto and building in a business here, is when I started to realize, all right, like, I want to go back to music in some way. But the first few years I was in crypto, I was really turning away from music a bit and feeling discouraged, and realizing that I had some success, but realizing that it was really going to take a lot to achieve anything else with a similar level, and or anything else at all, really, because I was releasing independent singles, I was trying to work with the label, I was trying to do all this stuff, and just nothing was really working. So that is what really led me into crypto.
Yeah, no, I mean, your story is very similar to mine in many ways. I also got into crypto in 2016. I had read about Bitcoin back in like 2011 early on, but it was so early. It was like, hard to figure out how do you even get this, and back then it was like you couldn't buy it really. I mean, well, you could. I mean, there was like physical exchanges that were starting to pop up, but not, it was like all OTC. It was very difficult. And I didn't really understand like from a tech aspect, like, how to run a node and all that. Um, so I was just kind of like, oh, this is a cool idea, but I don't know how to get into it. So, okay, whatever. And then 2013, my friend is like, "Oh man, you got to start buying Bitcoin." So I signed up for my first exchange in 2013, but still didn't really understand what I was doing and didn't really have much to invest anyway. So I'm like, whatever, And then 2016, he comes back, the same friend, and is like, "Oh, you gotta get started." So finally, okay, you've told me about this multiple times. I got to figure it out. So yeah, that's when I started researching and finally bought. And it was funny because that was my first buy too, was Ethereum. And around that same price, somewhere between $7 to $10 on average. So I basically bought my first thousand, or sorry, 100. I wish 1,000. My first 100 Ethereum for $1,000. So I miss those days, I gotta say. But yeah, so then okay, so you got into crypto 2016. You're struggling, with this whole concept of, dealing with the music industry, wanting to do your own thing, but then also discovering this new thing, with crypto, and you have a, finance background as well. So I think that probably all played into it. So like, when would you say was like this kind of light bulb moment for you where you're like, okay, maybe I can, somehow integrate this idea of cryptocurrency with music and like, sell my music for crypto? Like, when did that start?
Yeah, well, first I really just set out to make an entrance back to music, and I was like, all right, well, what am I gonna make music about? And that's where the idea for Crypto Rich came from. So really the idea for Crypto Rich to make an album that told my story, and it's really my story, and it's not just about crypto or all about the blockchain. The whole album is my story. And I really just wanted to make an album that told my story, but also told the story of what I see as the future of financial and creative freedom, which is crypto, right? So I wanted to choose a title that was, catchy and bold and interesting, and people were going to want to listen to, and something that was going to stand out. So that's why I chose Crypto Rich. And so I released the album before I had the idea to sell it for crypto. Like selling it for crypto was not really part of the initial plan so much. Like, if I would have thought it was a good idea, but I would have been like, I don't know how I'm going to sell this for crypto. I'm not worried about that right now. Like, I just want to get out an album that tells my story so I can make an entrance back into music, right? Like, selling it for crypto was an afterthought. And, like, obviously, I wanted it to be appealing to the crypto community. And honestly, I didn't have that success at first for sure. Like, I put it out and I didn't feel like anyone in the crypto community really connected with it in a big way or anything. I was on Twitter here, I had at that time I think I had like 10 to 15K followers, where I was at that range for like years. And there was just no community. There wasn't enough of a crossover community that at least that I could reach, that was interested in the music and the crypto stuff. So it wasn't until NFTs that I really started to find people who could connect with what I was doing on a regular basis. Before that, it was tough because I was trying to make the transition from like just tweeting about crypto and being like a crypto guy on Twitter. And like obviously, like in other ways, I would post about music, maybe on Instagram and stuff. But I had been out of the music industry for like 2 or 3 years, not posting about music for a couple years. Literally, I didn't post on Instagram for over 2 years. And on Twitter, I was just tweeting like degen stuff about trading, and like not tweeting about music, and like not even really talking about my music. Like it wasn't even integrated as a part of the identity I was putting forward on Twitter. Like I was at the time I was going by Dr. Crypto, and I was tweeting about cryptos all day. Like I obviously wasn't hiding that I was a musician, but like I wasn't telling everyone, "Hey, I'm a musician that trades crypto." Like it just wasn't that integrated with what I was doing. So yeah, when I released Crypto Rich, like obviously that's when I realized like, okay, I'm gonna like change back to just being Dill and like be Dill. The Now I'm a musician who released the Crypto Rich album and all this stuff. So I even have a tweet. Like there's a really old tweet that you can find here. That's me revealing that like I'm releasing the album and like I'm Dill. And like, cause at this time I had probably built up like a few thousand followers that like really had no idea that I was a multi-platinum artist. Like it wasn't even really in my bio. Like I wasn't hiding it per se. You could have gone to my Instagram and easily found out who I was. Like it was by no means hidden, but there was not even enough people who cared about what I was doing, or like cared about anything other than like seeing some crypto stuff out. And also you got to understand there's no Twitter Spaces, so you didn't talk to people like this. You just tweeted crypto stuff and people would see it and reply, but nobody really cared who I was or that I made this song. And the other thing is the song was probably a lot less accomplished than maybe had just recently gone platinum, and a lot less people even knew the song to begin with. So yeah, that's kind of where I was for a couple years before coming back to crypto and releasing Crypto Rich. But ultimately, it was after Crypto Rich came out that I started to be like, okay, maybe there's a way that I could sell this for crypto. But there was no NFTs, and even when they started to come around, it didn't seem like a super viable path to sell my music. Like, who's gonna buy my picture of my album for money, and why? And other than that, it was like, all right, maybe you could do like royalty splitting on chain, but that has like some issues with it that we could go into about that. But there's some issues with royalty splitting on chain. So that was obvious to me at the time. That's been kind of obvious. I think it's funny because you see when people are really first getting into crypto, blockchain, and NFTs and music NFTs, they have everybody has like this light bulb moment where they're like, oh my god, you could like split all of the royalties on chain, the whole music industry, all of publishing, like you can revolutionize everything. But then I've also realized over time that it's like so logistically complicated, and there's so many people that are heavily invested in doing it the old way that it's really complicated to ever see this kind of revolution, which is theoretically possible. So, anyway, everyone has this light bulb moment, but what was less obvious for me is the direction we've taken now, where the NFT is like a collectible VIP pass to a whole digital world. So, this path that we've taken with utility, with music NFTs, it was not obvious to me back in 2016, 2017, or 2000, even 2019 when Crypto Rich first came out. In 2019, I thought maybe you could do something with NFTs and splitting your royalties on chain. But other than that, nothing else seemed really viable for selling music for crypto. Like, I couldn't see the value of anything other than that, really. At the time, people would talk about social tokens, which is still a thing that people talk about, right? But at that time, everyone was like, oh, you should make like a dill token and like people can use it to get access to your stuff. But it wasn't as convincing as NFTs. And the whole NFT concept with the artwork and everything that comes with it now, it surprised me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, well, and you were doing this stuff really early as well, right? So I mean, 2019 you made the album, and then when did you actually launch it as an NFT? Like what year?
2021, March 2021. We're actually coming up on 2 years since my mint date. I actually, you know what? I unintentionally planned my new mint party one day after my 2 year anniversary. I might need to move it up. I didn't even think about that. But my 2 year anniversary is on March 14th, 2023, I believe. So it wasn't until 2021 that I first minted as an NFT. So album dropped in 2019. I worked on just traditional music industry promotion. I did some like basic stuff, like you could come on my website and like donate crypto to me, and then I would like give you an album download. But there was no bigger plan to it, and no one really did it. I just set it up to see if it could work. And yeah, a couple people did it, like friends, but nothing major, right? It wasn't even like a checkout process or anything like that. It was literally just like send crypto to this address and then get the download. So that was how it was. And then in 2020 I started to see crypto punks, and I started to see um, NFTs becoming popular. This was before Bored Apes even existed, and everyone was getting into Clubhouse. So I started on Clubhouse in 2020, and then that community became, everything you see today with NFTs and Web3, and that community became Bored Apes, and that community became everything in those early days of Clubhouse. So it was when I started to see crypto punks and some of the other NFTs that I started to realize, okay, there's real volume and real trading activity behind these NFTs. So like this is going to be the path to sell music for crypto.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you know, probably most people back then weren't really on Clubhouse. And I remember there was like this kind of battle at the time between Clubhouse and Twitter a little bit as far as just attention. But you know, then when Twitter launched Twitter Spaces, it was just like everybody went back to Twitter. It seemed like so it kind of killed that Clubhouse vibe largely. Obviously, they still have people over there and people love it, especially for the audio. I shout out Mitch down there; he loves Clubhouse. But yeah, I mean, so I mean, this was obviously even for Web3 music standards, like 2021 was super early. I mean, that's like ancient in Web3 times. Um, so who was around back then? Like who once you actually launched it on the blockchain, like who was around doing similar things at the time, like during that time frame?
That's a good question. Very few of the people that you see around today. Let's see. Farouk was around. Farouk was there early. Um, let's see. Alexander Masse was this guy that was awesome. He's the man. He was around heavily. He helped to run these communities. Shout out to Eric Spivak. He's another one who's in the music industry that's been around forever and since those early days. I mean, we used to run it on Clubhouse. I'm trying to think of who else has really been around for a long time. Glassy. This Glassy, he's in the music NFTs. He's been around for a really, really long time. Um, and there was no one talking about music NFTs. You got to understand, at that time, the people that had opinions on the music, it was tough to talk about music NFTs because I was trying to talk to a bunch of people that did not know anything about the music industry. So I would be arguing with people about stuff that shouldn't have even been an argument because they just didn't know anything about the music industry. So but I was ultimately just trying to be there and tell people like, look, this can work for music. Like, there's a way to do music with NFTs. Like, and at the time there were very few people that were there building. There was Eddie Gangland. He was one of the OG artists back then. Sabbath was around back then. Like, this is when some of the OGs were becoming made and. Yeah, I mean, in those early days, we were on Clubhouse, and that's where most of the activity was. And I remember the bored apes would come into our rooms, and they would all just start going hoo 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 hoo, and they would come into the space and start doing that. And I was like, "What the hell is this stuff? This is so stupid." And I was like, these guys are so stupid. What's with these dumb apes? And then next thing you know, they're worth like 5 ETH, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I was wrong. And the next thing you know, they're worth like 50 ETH, and I was like, wow, I guess I'm just the biggest idiot in the world. But yeah. Anyway, so I seen a lot of different things happen here in Web3, but at that time there were very few people around, especially not people talking about music NFTs.
Yeah, and I know Spotty Wi-Fi was pretty early launching on the blockchain too. Was he kind of around the same time? Was he before, after?
He
Do you
was like
remember?
summer 21, I think. So I
Okay,
think,
so you were even before him then. Wow.
yeah, I think his launch was like in the summer of 2021. So I was a solid, you know, 6 months or so before him, I think at least. But yeah, I mean, his project really got a lot of recognition and was smart of him to go directly for the crypto punks, So that was dope. But yeah, I mean, I've been putting out, with Crypto Rich, I've been like the OG artist to put out an album about crypto or about blockchain in any way. But Spotty really came through and did a lot for NFT music as well, and really did a smart strategy by using his punk and exposing himself to the largest and most richest NFT community here. So that was a smart decision, and it's just been different things that we've seen work here in the Web3 space, and so many artists that have come in and become successful. And I'll tell you what, now there's so much more of a clear path to get in Web3, become a music NFT artist compared to how I've been getting in and starting out on OpenSea contracts and having my collectors in all these different places, starting early in some ways. Maybe it's made it a little bit tricky to navigate, but now I think we're headed in the right direction with my new smart contract and our new upcoming mint and everything we got going on. So I'm excited about all of that. But it's been a little bit tough to just keep the community together and keep going when, when I came into the space, I got hundreds of collectors onto the OpenSea contract, which is great. I was able to sell some NFTs, but negative in the sense that, like, okay, well, now it's harder for me to maybe transition into what I want to do long term. But anyway, I'm glad to say that we figured that all out and we built the Dill Swap app, and all of our collectors have been swapping out their NFTs now, and I think that's going to be massive for the long term. So yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting journey, but now we see this clear path to selling your music in Web3 for crypto.
Speaking
Yeah.
of,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, speaking of keeping communities to get together, I know that, I mean, you've been a spaces warrior, and I know maybe you and V are in the battle for, I think, spending the most time. But can you talk a little bit about like music NFT radio and how you like came up with that idea? Because that is really what caught my attention. When I first showed up, it was like you and Spotty and Domino, and but it wasn't until music NFT radio that I was like, okay, because this is fucking brilliant. Like, because it's a way to not only build community, but I think it's still a very unique approach to this space as a tool. Um, so yeah, to tie it back in, can you talk a little bit about how you came up with that idea?
Yeah, man. Well, I really just was on spaces grinding for so long, and I started to think, like, I just want to play the music. Like, I just need a space where I can play the music, because the music tells my story. The music is the most convincing part. The music is what it's all about. I want people to hear the music, and they should hear the music and be interested in the NFT. Like, that should be the driving factor. And honestly, at this time, it was like a lot less common to see what you see now. Pretty standard, which is like music NFT artists go into a space and play their music, and that's how you sell NFTs. Like, now it's pretty obvious, but back then it was like way less practice. Like, just not as many people were used to like hearing a music artist come in and play their music and sell their NFTs like that. So I just wanted to make a space that was all about the music. So I started playing my own music into my own Twitter spaces and doing it a lot. And then I just started to feel like, wow, this is cool. And I started to do it 24/7. And I had some real success at first, but I was literally just playing music into my phone at my computer. And then I started to realize what we were doing, playing music all day, bringing people up, occasionally talking to people, and spinning other people's music. And I started to realize, like, okay, this is like an interactive radio station. And so that's where the idea for Music NFT Radio came up. And then from there, I secured Music NFT Radio account, musicnftradio.com. I was the original person to have this Music NFT Radio idea. I mean, if nothing else, I have the website. I was the first one to register it. I have the Twitter handle. Like, it's, to me, the most obvious and most catchy name for a music NFT radio station. So we are building a lot more than just the Dill NFTs as music on the blockchain. I'm building an entire media company behind these Dill NFTs. In addition to my music, in addition to my community and utility and shows and festivals and all kinds of things that I want to do, merchandise, I'm also building a media company with Music NFT Radio. And we have a podcast now with over 50 episodes. We have hours and hours of educational content for the community. So I'm trying to do something more than just sell my music on the blockchain or just give one-time utility. You see a lot of collections, and even a lot of music NFT collections, they come in with this one-time, grab bag of utility where it's like, oh, you mint this NFT and you get to, one lucky winner gets to do something special, and they might have a grab bag of utility, but it's a one-time thing and they don't have a long-term plan. But I'm trying to make my NFTs connected to a valuable platform and business with many different opportunities to grow. So Music NFT Radio is our media company, and it's been growing really nicely. Actually, we've seen a lot of growth lately on Twitter. We've been doing a lot more than just playing music 24/7, because honestly, I've found that it's tough to keep engagement up with 24/7 music streams. You know, people come on Twitter Spaces to hear engaging and informative chats here on the Spaces. They don't necessarily tune in to hear music. So people may be interested in the novelty of a space that plays music, but it's not going to keep them coming back and staying engaged to the show. So we try to do a combination of talking shows and playing educational content through the podcast, as well as doing the music streams. But doing 24/7 music streams, although I'm able to do it, it's sustainable for what we can do on a technology end. At this point, it's not sustainable for keeping the listeners engaged. But I think it's just a matter of growth of the platforms and growth of our message and what we're doing. And at some point in the future, we could have, you know, DJs on shifts coming in to keep it engaging. Because I think if we had like a live DJ and it was like people, you know, DJ talking and stuff like you hear on a real radio station, it would keep people more engaged. But as for now, the biggest issue is that there's not enough users on Twitter that are really just tuned in to hear a radio station. People want an engaging educational conversation where they can themselves get really involved into the talking. So that's kind of what we've seen, but I am pretty much the first person to launch a 24-hour stream on Twitter Spaces, and I'm by far and away the only person that does it. You can go check on superspaces.ai on their leaderboards, and you'll see that I'm a massive outlier in terms of time hosted. I think I'm at 400 or 500 hours over whatever time frame is there, and the next person is at like 200 hours. So I'm like the by far the person who has spent the most time on Twitter Spaces, presumably in the world, like as a host.
That's incredible.
Let's go. I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I don't think they're gonna be mailing me a Twitter trophy for it, but they should.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
That should be a thing, like YouTube sends those out. If you hit a certain amount of streams, like they should have a Twitter Spaces awards, system.
Well,
um,
right now, I'll say that Super Spaces, which is probably like the best tracking site right now, they they really score your rooms based on like time is like a negative. So like my rooms don't have a great score because they go 24/7 and that takes away. So like we could have a ton of listeners, but since it runs so long, it doesn't get a high score. So anyway, that's just maybe a weird way they score it, but it just has me thinking about the engagement of the show, like I said. So that's why we try to do a mixture of content now. And, you know, when it comes down to it, we could relaunch the 24/7 streams anytime we want. So, I mean, let's say bull market comes back and we have thousands of new people coming in every day who don't know what Twitter Spaces is, then they're probably going to be flocking into Music NFT Radio like we saw happen when I first launched it. But right now, we haven't had a massive growth in the NFT community over the last 6 months. You know, since I've been really running the show. I guess actually radio's been live for almost a year. So you know, we had 6 months where people were learning about it. Then we've had 6 months with pretty stagnant growth in the NFT community. I would say just about everyone has seen that Twitter space, and you know, people aren't heavily clicking on something that they're very familiar with is going to be just music playing. So that's why we spice it up with different titles, different shows. And like I said, when the bull market comes back, I'm sure we'll throw up Music NFT Radio and the account will have a lot more followers and engagement on its own. So it'll probably take right up again. And who knows where we'll see it go. I mean, we've seen as many as 100, 200 concurrent listeners in there already, and it's certainly the one of the biggest radio stations here in Web3. It's one of the biggest music focused shows. You know, there's it's certainly not the biggest, but it's one of them, and I'm proud to just be able to give opportunities to artists and bring them up and host a great show. So that's what it's all about. And I appreciate you, Taylor. You've been here since the beginning of Music NFT Radio, and you've seen it go from literally just me playing music out of my computer into my phone like a DJen all day, and to now being a media company planned for the future with a podcast and a live show and even some other plans that I haven't divulged yet to continue expanding. So yeah.
I love the idea of the DJs, and we have plenty of options. I mean, Twitter Spaces is literally like podcast and DJ boot camp. So there's so many different people I think that would love to jump on that. I know that that's going to happen eventually. It's only a matter of time. And how cool would it be to be able to have a bunch of different artists DJing, and maybe there's like a live stream element, and where like everybody just has their own playlist, and kind of that cross promotion, cross pollination thing that you're already doing right here, right now, just on a grander scale gets me really excited. And yeah, man, I just appreciate all the work you've done, and that you've inspired me in a ton of ways, and it's just so fun to be able to watch that grow. And I'm excited about the future, especially seeing y'all again coming up soon. I know that we're all going to be on the road here very, very shortly for those of us who aren't already. Um, but yeah, man.
Yeah, man, I think it's a matter of time, right now. I'm working really hard on this new drop. It's been a long road of me working with a few different devs and having to make some changes to our contract to get everything right, but I know we have the right build now, so I'm just being patient until our mint day, which is coming up on the 15th. So we have a new mint day coming up, and we had to make some changes, but I think it's for the best, and I'm really excited about the future of what's going on. And what I can say is if I had the resources and the funding, I would set music NFT radio up with, a small office and bring people in live to the show and do professional recordings with podcast and video, and hire live DJs to come in and do sets on a regular basis, and just have it set up in a studio where we can have a freaking iRig and a bunch of phones there running the radio 24/7. If I had the team around me or the funding to do something like that, I would, and I'm going to keep grinding until I do. So I have a vision for it, and I don't see why this couldn't be the radio station of the future with, a studio with a few phones and cameras, and next thing you know, we're just shooting constant podcast content, and it's being streamed live on Twitter, being streamed live on Twitch. I mean, it should be streamed live. That's the future, right? Is making live content that's live streamed on Twitter, live streamed on Twitch, then turns into YouTube videos. And that's the kind of media platform I'm trying to build with Music NFT Radio. So that's where I see this going. And, I'm going to keep grinding, hustling, trying to put it all together, put a team together, and get the funding to make this possible.
Let's go. I mean, there's a huge opportunity for that too. I think that when we had a more robust and healthy ecosystem, it was because there was individual local radio stations that were able to play acts that came through or that were coming up from there, and that should be here in our digital evolution of music as well. So let's make that happen. Got some ideas. Let's chat on the back end, but
Yeah, man. I don't know all the answers. I don't know the path, but what I do know is like it's growing fast, and no one can take that away from me or stop me on that front. I might not have the right funding or the right connections to take it to that next level by myself, but it's growing really fast. And whether it happens when it hits 10K followers or when it hits 100K followers, eventually someone's going to see that we have Music NFT Radio, the freaking handle. We have musicnftradio.com. I mean, and we have all this content behind it. Like the brand is on point, and I know at some point there's going to be a radio station or a record label that's looking to get into the radio station of the future, and they're going to look right at Music NFT Radio. I mean, we're the OG, and we're one of the biggest right now, so we're going to keep pushing.
That's amazing. Yeah, and just kind of along those lines, where do you see this whole space going over the next 5 to, let's say, 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think artists are going to continue to take more control in the music industry. I think amazing thought leaders and artists like Violetta, like Sammy, like myself, like others like you and Taylor who are here early and here building and showing the independent path to artists of the future. I mean, I think we're all going to be rewarded not just as collectors of each other's works, but also as artists and creators ourselves. I think we're going to see massive market caps like we've seen with Violetta. We've seen the Dylan NFTs hit some pretty nice peaks as well. But I think in 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a massive amount of value behind these artists' NFTs. You're going to have an artist market cap. And I think the market cap of our favorite artists is going to be in the many, many millions. And, perhaps the billions. I think right now, a correctly made NFT for Taylor Swift or Drake that was a 10K collection that got you VIP access to even one show on their tour or two shows on their tour. Let's say they two shows on their tour. That's only 20,000 tickets. That's literally nothing for one of these big artists on a whole tour. So they would give, but that NFT would be worth $1 billion. I mean, it would. And then you just throw in some merch with it that doesn't even cost that much to give to it, and the special merch pack that you can only get as NFTs, and you get 2 tickets to anywhere on the Taylor Swift tour, and it would just be $1 billion NFT overnight. So that's, in my opinion, that could happen very quickly. It just needs the artist to put it out. But to me, it could all be so simple, Literally, Taylor Swift could make your basic, ERC token and release a 10K collection, and it could be Taylor Swift VIP pass. You get 2 tickets to the show and you get a freaking special pack sent to your house with a vinyl, and they would sell for, I don't know, $1,000 each, make 10 mil easily, and then who knows, go to a billion market cap. I totally think it's possible. So that's kind of where I see this whole space going. But I think the independent artists that are here building now are going to be the leaders of the future. So maybe it won't even be a Taylor Swift or a Drake who does that. Maybe it'll be one of our very own here in the community that achieves those kind of heights. So that's what I think we're pushing towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for everybody, I threw your pinned tweet up at the top. So guys, definitely go interact with that. And you got a space planned here in the next couple weeks for
Yeah,
your mint.
let me throw that one up as well, because I would love to get
Absolutely.
more people coming out for that, guys. We have the mint coming up on the 15th. Like I said, I might have to move it to my anniversary, but either way, just set a reminder on this tweet. I would love to have you at the mint party, every single person who's here. And get into our collection. If you don't have a Dylan NFT yet, go snag one off OpenSea. It's actually a great time to get in because you can snag it off OpenSea, connect to the Dill app, swap it, and get 2 NFTs just for doing that. So it's one of those rare opportunities where you can actually earn a free airdrop just by simply participating on the blockchain. So we've seen massive airdrops like this, such as the ENS airdrop, or some of these other token airdrops or NFT airdrops like the Mutant Ape Yacht Club or Bored Ape Kennel Club. These NFT collections have created massive value through airdrops and through rewarding their community. So this is going to be huge. People are already swapping out their NFTs. And if you don't have a Dill NFT on Ethereum yet, or even if you do and you want to support, just go pick one up off OpenSea, swap it over in the app, and you get to earn free airdrop for doing so. And I think it'll be well worth it. The other option is just wait till mint day and come mint. But if you want to take advantage of some alpha, get in on that swap, get your free airdrop. But man, this was awesome. Really appreciate you having me here, Kirk. It was great to talk with you, tell the story a little bit. I'm glad we got to record it on Music NFT Radio podcast. I'll make us a dope little thumbnail and put it out and rep your show and rep the podcast. And I just love to have this opportunity to really tell my story, because what I'm building here is built for the long term. And I've made, you know, I've really had to make different sacrifices and different types of pivots along the way. But I have made sure that our contract is bulletproof and what we're building for the future is built the right way. And, a lot of people have tried to maybe send me the wrong way or give me something that was less than my standards. And I've had to say, no, we're going to build it. We're going to have to do something different. We're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to do, get it up to par. So, and now we have that. So gas optimized mint coming, swap process already built and deployed. I've done everything that we said we were going to do up to this point. So let's freaking go. Get ready for mint day. Swap out your NFTs. I think it's great that we actually have everyone swapping their NFTs now because it's just going to instill a lot of confidence to have those collectors on the new contract claiming their new stuff already. So let's go.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody jump in there, interact with that tweet, set your reminders for Dill Space, and get ready for the mint that's coming up. And yeah, Dill, I really appreciate you coming on today, telling us more about your story, your journey in this space. And, we all know how hard you work and all the things you've accomplished. And of course, you're a maverick in this space. I mean, you were doing things before other people weren't even conceptualizing them for the most part. So, definitely mad love to you. It was amazing to meet you in Vegas and again in London, and I'm probably going to see you again in New York, hopefully in the next month or so. So yeah, just keep building, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and of course, we're all going to be here to support you.
Same to you, man. This was great. I had a great time. Thank you for having me on. And keep it up, man. Keep bringing on amazing artists. Keep highlighting talent in this space. I think we all just have to keep pushing with the creative content and different ways to get it out there and different ways to highlight and spotlight those who are doing amazing things within the community. So, shout out to you. Thank you for all your support, my friend, and keep up the grind.
Thank you, brother, and thanks again for everybody to tuning in. And make sure you engage with those tweets and show Dill some love in the back channels. And thanks you everybody for coming to Audio Renaissance episode 4 featuring our man Dill. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and keep grinding.
Stay curious, my friends. We'll see you next time.